Coast heads in the West Coast direction. Buckley bangs it to the wing. Thomas gets there, drops it. Through some traffic, Shuey. Scott Selwood starting to find it. Waters, arms free, handball to Cox, hands to Prittis, Marston up and got it.
Just waited to kick well there on in the corridor if he turns inside.
In the middle there he is behind the umpire.
Too slow.
Yeah.
Boy, have they lifted a gear. Nat Nui searching for this one. He's up, he's got it.
He is an imposing presence, whether he's in the ruck or lurking forward. And with the late withdrawal of Chris Tarrant, they're a little bit undersized. They're one big man short down back. And so you can bet John Worsfold at every opportunity he's going to get Dean Cox and Nick Nat Nui to have a spell forward and really stretch the Collingwood defence.
Coming off arguably his best ever game last week against Carlton, a four-quarter performance, 24 possessions, 34 hit-outs, tough angle, and can't bend that back anywhere near enough, just scrapes in for a score.
Yeah, they're really starting to get on top through the midfield there. Marston here we see getting it, missed the inside target, little block there, not an intentional block from Hams, just enough to run Brown off Nat Nui, and once he gets his sights on the footy and jumps, you're not going to stop him unless you take his arms. You'll get a free kick anyway.
26-point turnaround in events here. Collingwood led by 19 early. Side bottom to Maxwell. Collingwood under siege, not playing on quickly. Captain says, let's take some time, boys. Let's show some poise. Cox. Too good. Some rumblings in the crowd.
Yeah, they just look a bit raggedy at the moment, Collingwood. They've lost a bit of structure. They've lost their matchup through the midfield, and their ball use is starting to let them down a bit, which is un-Collingwood-like.
Kerr. McKenzie. So to the open side they peel. Waters. Not a lot to go to. It's a wobbler and a turnover. Clark can get and go. Shaw has no one to go too long, so he holds it up and waits for the cavalry. Dane Swan looks inboard. Side bottom. Goes low. Clark collects. Dishes it back. Side bottom. Tries to roll one out. Almost a turnover back again. Crowd wanted to throw. McGinnity to Selwood. And again, the West Coast have the answers. Hams.
He got out of jail, Beau Waters. He tried to force the kick that wasn't on when he had a regulation square up if he wanted it.
Darling and Harry O. Fist wins. Shuey spent that before he'd earned it, and Shepherd pushed into the Collingwood dugout, and they've shown some kindness. 3 minutes 35 left to half-time. Dean Cox again.
He's getting frustrated, Darren Jolly. He's getting that position superiority early at the throw-ins, Dean Cox.
He's won the second most frees in the competition this year, Dean Cox. Finds Shepherd, who tries for Lynch or Nat Nui. Bounces to Lynch. Caught by Tuvey. Flicked up by Blair. Collingwood away. Beams. For Solo. Cloak. McKenzie right with him. Cloak goes to ground. Played for the free, didn't get it. Glass comes up. McKenzie. They have lifted a gear, maybe 2 gears, the West Coast in this second term. That kick not so good. Crushed by Jolly, but he hit it too hard. Thumped it all the way back to Brown. Shaw lays a tackle. Shuey just gets the kick away in time. Shepherd up with Swan, but he's too clever. He takes off, and it opens up for Collingwood now. Dane Beams didn't want to go for home. Changes his mind. Loads up long. Spectacular. Inspirational.
I reckon that's twice in this match now we've seen Dane Beams at the last minute change his mind, head to goal and tee off from outside 50. He's an exceptional kick of the footy. Mitch Brown got caught 2 or 3 times. Indecisive coming out of defence for the Eagles. They put themselves under pressure. That's a good body spoil there from Eric McKenzie. He takes Travis Cloak with his body as he comes in, and he's feeling the strain of that. And then look at this finish. Wasn't sure, ran his full 15, and then across the body.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of Russian roulette Dwayne, going through the midfield at the moment. It's incredible to watch. There's just no accountability. It really comes back to which team doesn't turn the ball over. I was watching Thomas and Swan and Shuey and Kerr in that last passage of play, and they're just really going wide of each other. And it's who uses the ball better at the moment. Collingwood have a run on here, even though, as you saw, West Coast have had it in their forward half much more in this term. Shepherd to half forward. Maxwell attack that. The boundary line was his sanctuary. Percentage play. Closing stages, second term. Eagles by a point. Yeah, look, both teams have responded when they've been asked to, which you'd expect for the top two teams in the competition. Nat Nui and Jolly tie-up. Gaff. Wobbler. Tough one to gather. Ball bounced unkindly for everyone, but Tuvi. Caught. Just got a handball away in time. Tried to mop up his own little mess, and he does with a free. Now, the umpire's caught advantage. No one from Collingwood wanted the advantage. The umpire made them play on. That's amazing. We did hear pre-season there was going to be the players' call. This might go against Collingwood. Marston to the top of the square. Nat Nui just bumped under it well. Dane Swan. Sharab Wellingham. Down to 1:20 for Solo on the open side. Elliott can gather and go. Dawes is inside 50, long on his own. He's on the run. He might jump. He goes up and he almost brings it down. McGinnity shovels it out. Glass. The cavalry didn't arrive in time. Now it does. Wellingham almost tries to get a handball up. Hard at it, McGinnity. To Gaff. To Brennan. We're down to 50 seconds. Heads wide to Waters. Caught. Again, the intensity lifts. Rosa to Brennan, hugs the boundary line, and that's a win. Yeah, just a bit about ball use at the moment, Dwayne, isn't it? Both midfields are getting hold of the ball, and certainly you can take it from one end to... It's opened up a bit, this game. Could be a grand final preview we're watching here. They could be dissecting this tape in September. Hill gets free, thought about it, gives it. Lynch needs to get around a tackler, hammers it towards goal. And that's against the flow for the West Coast. They lead by 7. Yeah, it is a bit against the flow. Collingwood, the ball was in Collingwood's forward 50, and it came back out. It looked like Hill was a really good kick from, I don't know whether he saw Hill there, but Hill was actually by himself inside 50. Bit of a risky handball. Lynch sums this up really well. Nice composure and a nice finish. But certainly the matchups through the middle of the ground are all over the ground at the moment. Both coaches wouldn't be happy that there's a lot of free players from either side. So from 19 points down to 7 points up, the West Coast in the shadows of halftime. Nat Nui climbs high. Scott Selwood dangerously. Free kick Thomas. Clock keeps tipping. A wobbler, a torpedo, tough to gather. Ball crunched to ground. Little fumble, Goldsack gives it to Dawes. Dying seconds, hammers that towards goal. Just misses. And that's been the tale of his season. 4 goals, 12 for Chris Dawes. Just enough time for a turnover, perhaps. That's right, just needs to kick it long and wide, Dwayne, here. To himself, and that gets the clock running. Massive crowd in here at the Melbourne Cricket Ground for what could be a grand final preview. 2 best teams in the competition hunting down top spot on the AFL ladder tonight. And in many respects, we're no closer to knowing the winner. West Coast Eagles by 6 points, 7-6-48 to 6-6-42. Don't go far. We're back to wrap up. It's been a fantastic 2012 so far. Let's have a look at some of the best marks of this season.
Long ball! What a mark by Robinson!
Oh, Shaw, the acrobatic leap.
Sure, you haven't seen a Shaw do that before.
Oh, what? Lane with a big grab. We haven't seen much of that this afternoon.
Oh, huge grab by Howe. We know he can jump. And Howe.
Gets the ball to half forward. Oh, wow! Cyril!
Well, another
a spectacular mark for Walker.
He's never done that before in his life. Oh, Natanui! Even higher than the last one. How good was that?
It's a He had the shit.
Oh, it was a great
used
set.
it.
We haven't really specified, goals for the season as internally or externally. I don't want to cap what we're capable of, and really all that happens at the end of the year is only made possible by what we do now. So once again, our aspirations will be dictated by the way we prepare and the way we perform against our next opponent each week, and we just. That's the way we go about it. We narrow our focus, and if we look after that, then the rest looks after itself.
I think Nathan Buckley knows they're capable of a lot, and they'll need to be the Pies to wrest back control of this one. Half-time at the MCG in an enthralling first half between two of the heavyweights. It's Collingwood 6-6-42 to West Coast 7-6-48. Travis Cloke has 3 and Beams 2 for the Pies. Multiple goal scorers Hams and Lynch for the West Coast Eagles. It was a very interesting clash. It looked like Collingwood early, and then West Coast came back, and very hard to pick anyone at this stage of the contest. Kingy?
Fascinating game, very scrappy game, no doubt. We haven't seen much pure football being played yet, but we just want to go through our audit sheet that we put up at the start of the day, Jace. Counter-attack of the Pies versus the West Coast Press. The game's largely been played at the West Coast end, and we saw in that second term, you can just see here, time in forward half, almost 70% in the West Coast forward line. That's their mode. That's how they like to play.
Perhaps didn't get enough reward on the scoreboard for that sort of dominance.
Exactly right, and they allowed Collingwood to get a couple of goals on counter-punch, which really hurt them. Point number 2, Jolly and Dawes versus Nick, Nat and Cox. I think Jolly's been terrific in the ruck, and they've actually got some proactivity out of that clearance area. Probably a little bit more than the Eagles, who'd be a bit disappointed at this stage. The third point that we put there was shark clearances versus pure clearances. Well, we just haven't seen any real pure clearances yet, aside from the fact of these couple in the first quarter where they were able to get momentum going. There was a free kick paid here, but he didn't hang around and wait for the umpire's call here, Beams. He just took total advantage of what was available, kicked the goal. That's the sort of damage we've expected from the West Coast and haven't seen. Great work there, good harassment. Again, from a stoppage situation to force the turnover. Great play.
It was an interesting one, that first goal from Beams. It just took him a while to work out which way he was going, but once he found out, he was off to the races.
Well, he did. The battle of the young guns, and you'd have to say Beams and Sidebottom have been terrific in this game.
Best man on the ground, Dane Beams.
Unbelievable. He's capitalised on his opportunities, had almost 20 possessions. He's been the difference for Collingwood, or certainly when they had their periods of dominance. The forward half stars for the Pies, Cloke and Dawes. I think they've been really well clamped. I know he took a strong mark 30 from goal, but the genuine one-on-ones that Glass and McKenzie were involved with against Cloke were superb, and I think they held their own under real heat early in the game. You just see here, lucky bounce. That's unlucky for a defender to be caught in that situation, and Cloke strolls and he kicks a goal. He went for basically 50 minutes of the game without marking the ball, Travis Cloke.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He has kicked 3 goals, which is a terrific return for him. But 2 of those, one was where there was an unlucky bounce from McKenzie, and another one he kicked on the run from outside 50 when there was a turnover further afield. So they haven't been regulation power forward goals and marks, have they?
No, and it's a fascinating matchup. And McKenzie's made huge grounds as a player the last 18 months, and I think that Clokey knows he's in for a battle, but he is still providing a focal point, and I guess that's a major part of his role. We look at the other end of the ground, defensive 50 ownership the Pies generally have versus the tall forwards of the Eagles. You'd have to say, Jace, they really got going in that second term. Late, or in the last 10 minutes, they capitalised. Lynch has been terrific down there as well.
And that's going to continue if the weight of possession is in their forward half.
Exactly right. And loose man impact. I'd have to say that Hearn and Waters have been able to get there and just diffuse a few situations, but that's much of a muchness at the moment. We saw a couple of goals direct from that kick-out situation in the first term, which kept the Eagles in the game when they were really struggling. It all goes through Hearn. really does. He's their architect out of the back line, and they were able to create a couple of scores early and go coast to coast, which is not really what the Collingwood Football Club generally allow.
No, they've been very good in the first half. Look, that halftime report card, I think there's enough ticks in West Coast's side of the equation to say they perhaps should be a little more than a goal in front. So we know they're up against a very good opposition. Collingwood have beaten them the last 6 times. I think we've got a lot to look forward to in the second half, haven't we?
Massive challenge for both clubs, but the game now being played the way they've played all season, and we'll just see who can execute the best in the second half.
Paul Ruth will join us on the other side of the break with much more from the MCG.
Swings the handle out wide. The kick by Grundy to half forward.
Well inside the 50 and Everett. What an important kick. Everett, his second of the night. He's working it back brilliantly. Oh, what a kick. What temperament. He's put it through, and the margin is 4 points for the Swans. Canterbury had it knocked away. Wojcinski getting a hand in there was Grundy. The Sydney Swans get home in a thriller on Friday night. What else do you expect?
It was a big night at the SCG for the Swans. They burst out of the blocks, held a big lead over the Cats, and then when it looked like the Cats had come back and steal it, they steadied and went on to win by 6 points, 12-8-80 to 11-8-74. I think it was the sort of match that we all now have to acknowledge Sydney as genuine flag contenders, Rizzy.
Yes, again, for 3 quarters, the Swans were outstanding, and Geelong didn't have any answers. They slowed the game down a bit by putting Bartel behind the ball, and then all of a sudden you looked up and it was a couple of goals of difference. But to be honest with you, Geelong never looked like winning it until they got in front at the end of the game, and you thought they're going to pinch this game.
Very good, the Sydney Swans, and very good, the Brisbane Lions today at Etihad Stadium. A bit of a surprise result. The Bulldogs going down in spectacular fashion. 58 points, the margin for the Lions. 18-6, very accurate, 1-1-4 to the 7-14-56. The Bulldogs, Ashley McGrath with 5 goals for the Brisbane Lions, and plenty of big matches still to come to complete round 13 at Patterson Stadium tonight. Can the Bombers go over and get the job done? They haven't had a great record over there in recent times against the Dockers. And coming up tomorrow, a couple of matches, Melbourne and GWS. Now, Tom Scully returns to face the team that he left for very big dollars. Kevin Sheedy would love to have another win under the belt, I'm sure, but Mark Neal, wouldn't he like to get a second win on the board for the D's? And the Adelaide Crows will travel to Etihad Stadium to take on the North Melbourne Football Club. They have been the surprise packet of the year, the Crows, and certainly a very tough one for North. Very hard to predict all these results at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, great games to follow. Really looking forward to some more football over the weekend.
We've got all the action of the second half from the MCG coming your way right after the break. It's the West Coast Eagles leading by 6 points as the Oz Kick, thanks to NAB, the Oz Kick kids enjoy a bit of a stroll around the hallowed ground of the MCG.